Massdorp. Just tell us, what is the vision of the bank?
So the new development bank was set up by the 5 Brics member states, right? So Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa came together and in an attempt to enhance economic investment and trade cooperation amongst these countries, the bank is one of the pieces of that overall collaboration. So the bank is set up with the intention to finance large-scale infrastructure. So everything from the building of new power stations, upgrading of ports, building of roads, telecoms, etc. So in a sense, you should see this bank as complementing the existing pools of capital, the money out there to finance infrastructure. The initial money available for infrastructure set aside is $50 billion. Each of the 5 countries contribute $10 billion each, and we will now go through a process of identifying potential projects that we can finance. So we will advance loans to the 5 Brics nations on commercial terms.
Just as a point of clarity, you say that each of the Brics countries contributes $10 billion, but our understanding is that South Africa is only contributing $5 billion.
No. There are 2 institutions that have been set up. The Brics Bank has been in the news in the main because it's a formidable new $100 billion institution that has been set up. But there's a separate institution really been set up called the Currency Reserve Arrangement, which essentially mirrors what the IMF does, which is a pool of money that is set aside should any of the 5 countries experience balance of payments or liquidity problems. They will be able to access that fund. In that fund, we've contributed or will contribute $5 billion. However, for the new development bank, each of the 5 countries have equal vote, and we've contributed in equal amounts.
Understood. Now, I suppose what you've just said sort of answers my next question, but how will the governance structure be set up in such a way that political and national interests don't hold sway?
Firstly, the bank, our principals are the 5 respective governments. However, we are an independent institution in the sense that we have a board of governors. Each of the governments have nominated people to serve on the board. For example, in the case of South Africa, former Minister of Labour, the former Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Tito Mboweni, he's one of the directors on the board. Similarly, Brazil, China, and each of the Brics nations have representatives there. In addition, there's a board of governors who have overall oversight, and that's where the Minister Nene and Nhlanhla, the Minister of Finance, is representing South Africa there. So that's the governing body, if you like, that will have oversight over us, the executive team, who will day-to-day run the institution.
I know that you're still sort of formulating how the bank is going to run and so on, but would it not be prudent perhaps to ensure that, because you're dealing largely with emerging markets, that you lend those markets in their actual currency so that they're able to hedge against stronger currencies?
That's right. I think one of the problems that emerging markets have faced over the last sort of 70 years, let's say, of the World Bank and the IMF and other development banks' existences has been this issue around fluctuation in their own currency. So if you think about it, if you borrow in dollars, right, and your own currency depreciates significantly, you have huge exchange rate risk. So that would be one of the issues that we will need to consider. But as you correctly pointed out, I mean, we are literally in the first month of our operation. We are literally in week 3. There's a whole series of decisions we have to make. For example, our credit rating. Will we go for international rating? We might start, for example, with the local rating. We will be based in China as the headquarters. We could, for example, issue in local currency. All of these are considerations that we will need to arrive at in discussions with our principals.
Now, as I understand it, there will be an office or a base in South Africa. What will that do and how will it interact with Shanghai?
So Shanghai will be the headquarters of the bank. We are literally in a process now of defining the sort of operating procedures and policies of the bank. We're going through a whole process of hiring people who will work in Shanghai. The first regional office of the bank that will be established will be in South Africa. It will be called the Africa Regional Center, and it will be located in Johannesburg. So that office, if you like, will be the principal capacity that will look at projects on the continent, but it will also serve as the rest of the bank. So it's not a regional office for South Africa or for the continent. It will also fulfill a role within the broader bank globally. And
lastly, when will disbursements of funds begin?
There are huge expectations with respect to that. The bank, as I said, have just literally started. However, in Ufa in Russia, Our political principals, the presidents and the ministers of finance from the respective countries, have indicated that there is a keenness to see us advance our first loans by the second quarter of next year. The beginning of the second quarter will be April 2016, which is a very aggressive timeline. As you might know, it takes a long time to identify a project, do the necessary risk appraisals, go through each of the phases before you go to financial close. However, we might also finance or co-finance some existing projects. So it doesn't mean that we will from scratch identify a project it's already August 2015. We might co-finance alongside other banks existing projects that are much further down the cycle of development.
All right, well, all the very best with that. Thank you for your time.
Thank
that
you.
was Leslie Massdorp. He's the Vice President of the new development bank, commonly called the Brics Bank. Well, that's all from us here at Business Review. We'll have more news for you tomorrow evening. Up next.